People ask Dora Reyes if she has any regrets. She usually says no, and she means it, mostly. She's made hard calls in her life, done things that cost her, walked into situations that reasonable people would have walked away from. And she's at peace with almost all of it because almost all of it was done for something that mattered. But then there's the night of the Rusty Spur. And when that one comes up, Dora gets this look. Not shame exactly, not quite. More like the look of someone remembering a fire they started on purpose that turned out to be bigger than they planned. And the only reason nobody died is luck and the grace of the universe and the fact that Roxy can take a bottle to the head and stay standing. She'll tell you about it if you ask, but she always starts the same way. She always starts with the bats. It was a Friday in March 5 years ago, and Dora Reyes had no business being at the Rusty Spur that night. The Rusty Spur was a roadhouse bar on the county line, the kind of place that had been a bad idea since the day it opened, and had never once tried to improve on that reputation. Sticky floors, lights that flickered on purpose, or maybe by accident, nobody was sure. A jukebox that only played 3 kinds of music, loud country, louder country, and something that might have been rock, but had been played so many times on blown speakers that it was hard to tell. The clientele on a Friday night was a specific combination of oil workers, off-duty truckers, and men who had decided somewhere along the way that the rules of reasonable behavior were suggestions that applied to other people. Iron Magnolia didn't go to the Rusty Spur. That was just a known thing, not a written rule. Dora didn't do written rules for things like this, but an understood one. The energy at that bar and the energy of her club were 2 chemical compounds that had no business being in the same container, which is why, when Dora found herself pushing through the door of the Rusty Spur at 9 on a Friday night in March, she already knew she was making a choice she'd have to account for later. The reason was a bet. Specifically, a bet she had made 3 weeks earlier with a man named Denny Okafor, mechanic, occasional poker player, the kind of man who smiled too wide when he thought he was winning. The bet was this: Dora had claimed she could rebuild a '98 Sportster engine from scratch in under 4 hours. Danny had said impossible. Dora had said watch me. They'd agreed on terms. Loser bought the winner a drink at the bar of the winner's choice. Dora won. Of course she won. And Danny, grinning with the resignation of a man who had been fairly beaten and was making peace with it, had said she could pick any bar in the county. Dora had picked the Rusty Spur. Later, when people asked her why, she said she'd done it because it was funny, because she wanted to see Danny's face when she named it, because she'd ridden past that bar 100 times and never gone in, and something stubborn in her, the same thing that had made her learn to rebuild a Sportster engine at 19 just to prove she could, had decided that tonight was the night. It was a dumb reason. She knew it was a dumb reason. She went anyway. She went alone, which was the first mistake. Not the kind of alone that was brave or defiant, just the regular kind of alone that comes from not thinking something through. She told Denny she'd meet him there. She'd gotten on her bike, her personal bike, the Black Road King she'd had for 7 years, and she'd ridden the 12 miles to the county line with the March wind cold on her face and the engine sound she trusted more than almost anything else in the world. And she'd pulled into the Rusty Spur parking lot at 9 o'clock and parked between 2 trucks so large they made her bike look like a toy. The parking lot alone told a story. She counted 4 bikes she didn't recognize, not Iron Magnolia, not anyone she knew, parked in a cluster near the side door. Road Kings and Dinahs, well ridden, some road miles on them. A club she didn't recognize, which in Harlan County usually meant a club from outside the county, which meant unknown variables, which meant pay attention. She made a mental note and walked inside. The Rusty Spur on a Friday night was exactly what it always was, which was exactly what she'd expected. Loud, crowded, the particular thick air of a bar where the ventilation has long since stopped being adequate. She spotted Denny at the bar, already on his first beer, waving at her with the cheerful, defeated energy of a man who had accepted his fate and decided to enjoy it. She ordered a whiskey, neat, the good stuff, since Denny was paying. For 45 minutes, everything was fine. They talked about the Sportster. They talked about the upcoming season run Iron Magnolia was planning. Denny told a story about a carburetor that had beaten him for 3 weeks, and Dora told him what he'd done wrong, and Denny said he knew, He'd figured it out eventually, and they argued pleasantly about the correct torque spec for a specific bolt that neither of them needed to be right about, but both of them wanted to be right about, because that was how mechanics argued, and it was deeply satisfying. 45 minutes of a perfectly good Friday night, and then the pool table happened. The pool table was in the back corner, under a light that worked about 60% of the time. There was a game going between two of the unknown bikers, big men, road-worn, not local, and a local guy named Travis Briggs, who Dora vaguely knew as someone's cousin, and who had, based on his current posture and volume, been drinking since considerably before 9 o'clock. Travis was losing. Travis was also loudly explaining to anyone within 20 feet exactly why the game was rigged, why his opponents were cheating, why the table was uneven, and why the universe in general had arranged itself specifically to inconvenience Travis Briggs on this particular Friday. One of the bikers, big guy red beard patch on his gut that said Crow, said something to Travis that Dora couldn't hear from the bar. Travis said something back that she could hear fine because Travis had no indoor voice. Crow set his pool cue down on the table very slowly. Dora set her whiskey down. "Here we go," Denny said very quietly. "Yep," Dora said. She watched. Not her business, not her fight. Travis Briggs was not someone she knew well enough to wade into anything over, and the bikers hadn't done anything she'd seen that justified her getting involved. She watched because watching was what you did when something was about to go sideways, and you needed to know which way. Crow and Travis exchanged 3 more rounds of words, volume going up incrementally with each exchange, the way these things always do, not explosively, just steadily, like a pot coming to boil. The bar around them had started doing the thing bars do when a fight is brewing, the subtle reorganization of bodies, people shifting slightly, conversations getting quieter, the collective unconscious of a room preparing for something. Travis threw the first punch. It was not a good punch. Travis was drunk and slow, and telegraphed it from about a mile away, and Crow moved aside from it, with the ease of a man who had seen worse and in better lighting. Travis stumbled. Crow's friend, big dark jacket, no visible road name, put a hand on Travis to stabilize him, which Travis interpreted as an attack, which meant Travis swung again, which this time connected with something that wasn't Crow. It connected with the guy on the stool next to Crow, who was not involved, who spilled his beer, who was now involved. What happened next lasted 11 minutes, and Dora could account for every one of them. The bar went from 60 to 100 in about 4 seconds. The 2 unknown bikers had friends. 3 more materialized from somewhere near the dartboards with the practiced speed of men who had run this drill before. Travis had friends too, it turned out, or at least people who shared his general grievances about the universe and were willing to express them physically. The bartender started yelling. The jukebox kept playing, indifferent. Dora was off her stool before she'd made a conscious decision to be off her stool. This was the second mistake. Or maybe it was just who she was. She had never in her life been able to watch something go wrong and stay seated. It was a personality flaw she'd made peace with years ago. She wasn't trying to fight anybody. She was trying to get between Travis and the 2 bikers before this became something that couldn't be walked back, because Travis was drunk and outmatched and about to get seriously hurt, and that was wrong regardless of whose fault it was. She got between them. She held up both hands, universal, cross-cultural. "This doesn't need to go further," and she said loud and clear over the noise, "Take it outside. Take it outside right now, and nobody calls anybody about anything." Crow looked at her. She looked at Crow. He was not a small man. He had a good 4 inches on her and 60 pounds, and the look of someone who had been in enough situations to know how to read them fast. He read her, the cut, the patch, the fact that she'd stepped in without a weapon, and without backup, and without the energy of someone looking for a fight, and something in his face recalibrated. "Who are you?" he said. "Iron Magnolia," she said, "and this isn't worth it." Crow looked at Travis, who was bleeding from his lip and vibrating with the specific energy of a drunk man who has convinced himself he's winning. Then back at Dora. "Tell your boy to stand down," Crow said. "He's not my boy," Dora said, "but I'll tell him." She turned to Travis. "Travis, stand down, right now." Travis looked at her with the unfocused indignation of someone who felt his honor was at stake, and couldn't quite remember why. They cheated, he said. Maybe they did, Dora said. Sort it out outside, or don't sort it out at all. Travis opened his mouth, and somebody. To this day Dora did not know exactly who, and she'd spent some time thinking about it, threw a bottle. It came from the left. It wasn't aimed at anyone in particular, or if it was, the thrower had terrible aim. It hit the light fixture over the pool table, which was already only working 60% of the time, and was now working 0% of the time, which plunged the entire back corner of the bar into darkness, which was exactly the wrong thing to happen, at exactly the wrong moment, because in the sudden dark everyone grabbed onto the last cleared emotion they'd been feeling, and acted on it. The bar exploded. Dora had her phone out before the second punch landed. She pressed Roxy's number, and when Roxy answered, because Roxy always answered, 2 in the morning, bar fight, didn't matter. Dora said 4 words, Rusty Spur, come now. Roxy said, how many? Dora looked around the bar, counted, 7 minimum, unknown MC, no intel. Roxy said, 8 minutes. The line was dead. Dora put the phone in her pocket and assessed. The bar was full chaos, maybe 30 people, and about 12 of them actively involved in various stages of fighting, with the other 18 trying to either leave or stay out of it, and not having much success with either. The 2 main unknown bikers, Crow and the Dark Jacket, were holding their own in the corner. Travis had found 2 of his cousins from somewhere, and the 3 of them were doing the kind of fighting that drunk cousins do, which was loud and committed, and not particularly effective. The bartender, a woman named Lou who Dora had met exactly once, and who turned out to be considerably more formidable than she looked, had come around from behind the bar with a bat, not swinging it, just holding it. Everybody stop, Lou said. Nobody stopped. Lou was not surprised by this. She looked at Dora across the chaos with the expression of a woman who had seen this before, and had opinions about it. You started this, Lou said. No, Dora said, you involved. Trying not to be. Lou nodded. Good luck with that. A bar stool went past both of them at approximately head height. Dora ducked. Lou didn't even blink. The 8 minutes it took Roxy to arrive were the longest 8 minutes Dora had experienced in recent memory. She spent them doing the only thing that made sense. Moving. Staying mobile. Staying between the worst of it and the people who were trying to get out. Making herself a kind of human buffer in the chaos that kept the people who didn't want to fight from getting caught in the middle of the people who did. She took an elbow to the jaw at the 4-minute mark that snapped her head to the side, and would leave a bruise she'd spent 2 weeks explaining. She took a shoulder hit at 6 minutes that knocked her into a table, which collapsed, which she decided not to be embarrassed about because the table was genuinely very old, and probably would have collapsed under a heavy look. At minute 7, Travis breaks, drunk, bloody-lipped, deeply committed to his own narrative about what was happening, accidentally punched Denny Okafor, who had been trying to leave since minute 2, and had simply not been able to find a clear path to the door. Denny, who was a large man and a patient one, looked at his jaw, looked at Travis, and said, really? Travis said, sorry man, I thought you were. Don't, Denny said, and sat down on the floor in the middle of the bar fight, which was so unexpected that the 3 people nearest to him actually stopped fighting for a moment to look at him. I'm just gonna wait here, Denny said calmly, until this is over. Which was actually one of the most sensible things anyone did, all night. Roxy came through the door at 8 minutes and 4 seconds with 9 Iron Magnolia women behind her. 10 women in full cuts walking through the door of a bar mid-brawl does something to the atmosphere of a room that is difficult to describe, and very easy to feel. It's not that they were threatening, they didn't come in swinging, they didn't announce themselves, they just walked in. 10 women who rode thousands of miles a year and knew exactly who they were and moved accordingly, and the room felt it. The noise level dropped. Not to 0, but it dropped. Roxy's eyes found Dora's across the bar immediately. Dora had a cut lip, a bruise coming in on her jaw, and the expression of someone who was deeply tired of this specific situation. Roxy looked at all of this, and then looked at the bar in general, and then looked back at Dora with an expression that said many things simultaneously, chief among them, we are going to talk about this later. Dora nodded, yes, later. Roxy turned to the room. She didn't yell. Roxy almost never yelled. She had a voice that carried without needing to be raised, the kind that had spent years cutting through engine noise and wind on open highways. "Everybody with a bike outside parked on the south side," she said. "You've got 30 seconds. Crow looked at her. "And if we don't?" Roxy looked at him with the complete calm of a woman who had not driven 8 minutes at high speed on a Friday night to negotiate. "Then we find out," she said. Crow looked at his crew. Some calculation happened. Then he nodded, and they moved for the door. Roxy turned to the Travis situation. Travis's cousins had already decided to leave. The arrival of 10 bikers had clarified their priorities considerably. Travis himself was sitting on a bar stool, with his arms crossed and his lip bleeding, and the stubborn expression of a man who felt he had a point to make. "Travis," Roxy said, "go home." "They cheated," Travis said. "Travis," Roxy said, "go home." Travis looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the 10 women standing behind her. Then at the bat Lou was still holding. Then at Denny sitting peacefully on the floor. Something in Travis's calculus shifted. "Fine," Travis said. He left. The Rusty Spur after the fight looked like a bar that had recently hosted a bar fight, which is to say it looked bad. 2 tables down, 4 stools broken, the pool table light destroyed. A remarkable amount of broken glass distributed across the floor with what seemed like artistic intent. A jukebox that had played through the entire thing without interruption, and was now absurdly playing a slow song. Lou looked at all of it. Then she looked at Dora. "You're paying for the light fixture," she said. "Fair," Dora said. "And the tables." "Also fair." Lou looked at her for a moment. "Why'd you come in here tonight? Iron Magnolia doesn't come in here." Dora touched her jaw where the bruise was forming. "Lost a bet," she said. Lou stared at her. "I won the bet," Dora clarified. "Then I came here as my prize." Lou continued to stare. "In retrospect," Dora said, "I should have picked a different bar." Lou made a sound that was either a laugh or something close to it, and went back behind the bar and started making drinks for the people who had stayed, because some people had stayed, because some people always stay. Outside, in the parking lot, Dora stood next to Roxy by the bikes. The unknown MC, Crow's crew, had ridden out without further incident. No agreement had been reached, no conversation had been had, but nothing further had happened either. And in the economy of a county line bar on a Friday night in March, that counted as a win. Roxy was looking at Dora's jaw. "How bad?" Dora said. "You'll live," Roxy said. Santos took a bottle to the shoulder. "Bex has a split knuckle. Lynn's going to have a black eye." Dora absorbed that, the weight of it. People who had come because she called, who had come without asking why, and who were going home with damage that was attributable to a bar she had chosen, because of a bet she had won, because of stubbornness. "I'm sorry," she said, and she meant it, not the performative sorry of someone managing a situation, the real kind, the kind that costs you something to say. Roxy looked at her for a long moment. "Was the whiskey at least good?" she said. Dora thought about it. "It was all right." "All right," Roxy repeated. "Danny was paying," Dora said. "I should have ordered better." Roxy made a sound, the specific sound she made when something was funny, and she was not going to give Dora the satisfaction of laughing at it. "You're buying breakfast," Roxy said. "Yeah," Dora said. "I know." She bought breakfast. All 10 women, plus Denny, who had eventually gotten up from the floor of the bar, and walked out with the dignity of a man who had made his choices, and stood by them, gathered at the all-night diner on Route 9 at 11:30. Dora bought every plate on the table, and both rounds of coffee, and the pie, because there was always pie, and nobody argued about any of it, because nobody was going to argue with Dora Reyes when she was buying breakfast, in the specific way she bought it, like it was what she owed, and she was paying it. They sat in that diner for 2 hours. Santos had her shoulder in a makeshift ice pack, a bag of frozen peas from the diner kitchen that the night cook had produced without a single question, which said something about what that diner was used to on Friday nights. Bex had her knuckle wrapped. Lynn had one eye nearly shut and was drinking coffee through the good side of her face and somehow making it look normal. They talked about everything except the fight. That was an Iron Magnolia thing. You didn't debrief in the field. You didn't process in the moment. You ate, and you let the adrenaline leave your body, and by the time the plates were cleared, you were already somewhere else. Danny looked at Dora across the table at one point and said, "For what it's worth, I told you to pick a different bar." "You didn't say that," Dora said. "I thought it very loudly," Danny said. Dora looked at him. At his expression, this man, who had taken an accidental punch from a drunk stranger, and responded by sitting down calmly on a bar floor and waiting it out, she felt something that was adjacent to affection, and more specifically, adjacent to amusement. "You ever going to bet against me again?" she said. Danny considered this seriously. "Probably not," he said, "but if I do, I'm picking the bar." "Deal," Dora said. They shook on it. Dora thinks about the Rusty Spur sometimes. Not with regret exactly. She's told you how she feels about regret, more with the kind of clear-eyed recognition of someone who knows what she did, knows why she did it, knows what it cost, and has filed it accurately. She went to a bar she had no business going to, because something stubborn in her said why not. She started nothing, but she didn't walk away when she should have. She called her people, and her people came, and her people got hurt for something that started as a bet about a Sportster engine. She paid for the light fixture, she paid for the tables, she bought breakfast. She learned that stubbornness without thinking is just stubbornness. She's still stubborn. She was never going to stop being stubborn, but now, most of the time, she thinks about it first. Most of the time. The Road King still runs perfectly, for what it's worth. She rebuilt that engine herself. Iron Magnolia.